The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.
Tonight on The Agenda, John Michael McGrath and I with our weekly onpoli podcast.
If Bonnie Crombie gets her wish and is the next Premier of Ontario, it will be very interesting to see how that relationship develops, because as much as you want, the interests of the province and the interests of municipalities are in some ways always going to diverge.
Hey, partner.
Hello, sir.
Can I do the obligatory just quick shirt reference here?
Yes, absolutely.
This is one of my favorite interchanges in the whole province of Ontario, because as you go up the 400 highway to get to Manitoulin Island, you get to a point where you get to a fork in the road. You remember what Yogi Berra used to say, when you get to the fork in the road? Take it.
Okay.
That was Yogi. But this is where, you got a decision. Are you going to go to Orillia or North Bay, or are you going to go up 69 to Parry Sound and then eventually over to Manitoulin? And that's what I do. So I love the fact that it's emblazoned here on my shirt, and it gives me something to sort of look forward to.
It's one of those pieces of Ontario geography that if you've been on that road and past that sign, you recognize it.
Right on, right on. Now, we don't normally spend a lot of time talking about all of the myriad press releases that the opposition parties at Queen's Park put out, because...
How could we?
How could we? And we really don't want to, because not all of them are brilliant nuggets of information. But there was one that came out from the Ontario Liberals recently that caught our fancy. And we were talking, as you remember, a couple of weeks ago about the fact that the Master Framework Beer Agreement is going to be brought to an end 1 year early for a cost of, the Tories say, $225 million. The Liberals say $1 billion. I don't know who's right, but if it is $1 billion, the Liberals put out a list of things saying, here's what we could spend that $1 billion on, rather than ending a beer agreement a year early. Shall we go through this real quick and give people a taste?
I think I'm up for it.
All right. Ready, set, go.
Hire 13,260 new nurses or 10,500 teachers.
Build a brand new hospital.
Build 7,875 affordable housing units.
Double funding for school repairs.
Cut the small business tax rate in half for 2 years.
Make homes more affordable by delivering a 25% rebate on development charges for a year.
Reinstate GO train service between Toronto and London.
Deliver two-way all-day GO service between Toronto and Niagara Falls.
Widen the rest of Highway 69 in Northern Ontario.
Here we go, right there, folks, right there on the shirt, 69. Boost wages for 147,000 PSWs, personal service workers, to $25 an hour.
Provide 300,000 Ontarians with a 50% rebate for installing heat pumps.
And finally, install 7,000 fast public EV chargers for Ontario drivers.
So I think let it never be said that the opposition only opposes without ever proposing something constructive.
Those are constructive suggestions. Whether any of them will see the light of day is another story.
Yes, indeed.
And with that, we're on to issue one. JMM, there are so many signs pointing towards an early provincial election call for next spring, rather than allowing the current parliament to last until June of 2026. Clearly, we are not the only ones who think this could happen. There is new polling out this week from an organization called Palace Data, and they asked if people would be more or less likely to vote for the Progressive Conservatives if an early election were called. Now, break down the numbers for us, if you would.
Right. As you mentioned, this polling comes from Palace Data. They surveyed just over 1,100 Ontarians over the age of 18. This was an interactive voice poll, like a phone poll. They found that if the PCs were to call an early election, 31% would be less likely to vote PC, 10% would be more likely to vote PC, and 52% say that there would be no impact on their vote.
Interesting.
They also dug a little bit deeper, and they asked people to explain the reasons why they might vote or not for the Progressive Conservatives. And the numbers show that if the PCs were to call an early election, there would be no impact on their base, the people who are already inclined to vote for the Progressive Conservatives. Basically, anyone who doesn't like the PCs but would rather vote for them over another party. So if you take these numbers as they're being reported, if you're a Tory voter, or even really just slightly inclined to vote Tory, the early election wouldn't change the overall vote. Those two groups combined together would be enough to push the party into victory territory.
This is an organization, I must confess, I do not know. It's called Palace, spelled like Dallas, not like the Pink Palace at Queen's Park. And it's just one poll, but it shows that the PC's voters base thinks that the party is doing a pretty good job. And Okay, let's do all the caveats here. We know that the only poll that matters is the one on Election Day. We also know that polls are a pretty scientifically proven method of understanding what people thought yesterday. They are not predictive. So even if the election were called today, it is not a slam dunk that the Progressive Conservatives would win. After all, they'd have to get still through a 35 to 40-day campaign. And as you and I both know, as everybody who watches politics knows, campaigns matter.
Absolutely. And I don't think you need to take these polls at face value. And what I mean by that is, like the poll says what it says. And I don't want to get into, trying to break down the crosstabs and pick and choose the data that I like or don't like. And I certainly don't think there's any bad faith on the part of this pollster. But I cannot make myself believe that nearly a quarter of the PC party's base would be more likely to vote for the party with an early election call. Just nothing about that makes any sense to me. And people say that to the pollster dutifully reports it in their data collection. It just doesn't pass the laugh test with me. You and I have both seen poll results that didn't actually play out in the real world. And this smells like one of those to me.
Well, but let's also say, if you are the Progressive Conservatives and you're 6 years into a mandate with 2 victories under your belt, these are pretty good numbers. You're not unhappy with this at all.
No, absolutely. And you taking these results as they've been reported, you would feel pretty confident going into the next election.
Indeed. Now, Palace Data also did some polling around the decision to expand alcohol sales in corner stores. We talked about that a second ago. And the result there, interestingly enough, somewhat more negative. Yeah. What do they say?
Yeah, this was surprising to me. When people were asked about whether corner store beer should proceed at the cost of $225 million or even $1 billion, as alleged by the Liberals, only about a quarter of respondents say yes. And I mean, I mentioned those numbers because that sort of brackets off the facts of what we know is going to happen. It's either, maybe it'll cost $225 million as the government claims. Maybe it will be as much as $1 billion, but it's not going to be zero. Right. And only about a quarter of voters say they support this going forward.
That's a lot of money for not much support.
Exactly. And something like 70% of respondents say either they want there to be no cost for the expansion of beer and wine sales, or that the government should not proceed with the expansion at all. So not a ton of support for this measure. Now, they did break down the numbers by age. And the older the age, in general, the less likely the respondents were to agree with this decision to liberalize beer and wine sales. In the 65 and over age bracket, 46% disagreed with the decision to expand sales, whereas if you compare that to the 18 to 34 age bracket, let's call it the house party bracket, only 26% of those who were polled disagreed.
I'm prepared to go out on a limb here and say, and I am sure Palace did not poll this group, but I suspect that if you surveyed kids between the ages of 12 and 18, 100% would love the option of being able to buy beer or wine in the corner stores. Now, mind you, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but I still think you'd probably get 100% support for that idea.
Did I ever tell you that my high school when I was a kid was across the street from a beer store?
That explains much. Yeah, I didn't know that, no.
Now, to be clear, I never bought beer there underage.
Sure you didn't.
Nor did I ever buy beer for anyone underage. But to quote Jurassic Park, life finds a way.
Right on. Let's get out of here. With that, on to issue 2. The city of Mississauga officially has a new mayor-elect. City councillor and former MP Carolyn Parrish bested 19 other candidates, including fellow councillors Alvin Tedjo, who came second, and Deepika Damerla, who was third. JMM. Deets, please.
Right. Carolyn Parrish won with 31% of the vote. She had consistently been leading in the polls, so in some sense, this is just a case of the front runner was the front runner until the end. But some of the late polling had shown it to be a very tight race. There wasn't a ton of daylight between Parrish or Alvin Tedjo or Deepika Damerla. Midway through the campaign, Parrish had stopped taking part in the all-candidate debates, citing threats and harassment that she and her staff had received online.
This may... I hear 2 schools of thought on this. One is that debates are important, even if they don't change very many minds. It's all part of the democratic process, and candidates should partake in them. There's the other school of thought, which is because they changed so few votes, what's the point? And I think, I mean, the fact that Parrish did not take part in debates at a certain point, I think really shows the strong name recognition that her brand has that brought her over the finish line first.
Right. She's been a political face in Mississauga for really a very long time. We got into her background a bit deeper last week, but she's been a Mississauga councillor for the last 10 years. Before that, she also served 4 years from 2006 to 2010. Prior to that, she was a Mississauga Liberal MP. I believe she did a stint as a school board trustee as well, if I'm not mistaken. So she has been involved in Mississauga politics in one way or another for over 3 decades.
Now, voter turnout, we should talk about that for just a second here. 26%. How does that compare to a regular election?
It's certainly lower than you would see in a regular election, but not dramatically so. We have seen municipal turnout usually around the 33% mark.
And let's remember that Parrish, Tedjo, and Damerla, the top 3 candidates, are all federal or provincial Liberals once upon a time. So it is possible, I suppose, that many voters thought to themselves, I don't really have to get out to the polls because one of the 3 of them is going to win, and they're all ideologically sort of in the same area. So that may have had a role in keeping voter turnout low.
Yeah, there were some differences, but it's not massive clashes of ideologies here. Mm-hmm. One of the first things that Parrish said was that she wanted to get a better deal for Mississauga from the province of Ontario, similar to the new deal that Olivia Chow got for Toronto. The Premier, of course, has reasons to want to keep Mississauga voters happy. For the past 30 years, the party that won the most seats in Mississauga also won the provincial election. Bit of a bellwether in that sense. The Premier is probably thinking about some of the trouble that he could face in Mississauga in the next election. Parrish's predecessor, Bonnie Crombie, is now the Ontario Liberal leader, and it's, I think, plausible that she could put some of those seats back into contention. Of course, the Tories hold all of the seats in Mississauga right now.
Right.
Do you want to hear a nerdy fact?
Always.
Parrish is only the 5th mayor since the city of Mississauga was created in 1974. Mm-hmm. So to compare, during that same time period, Toronto has had 11 mayors, although we're now talking about the pre-amalgamation city of Toronto and the new, the still new 1997 amalgamation.
You're in the weeds, buddy. You're in the weeds.
Sorry. But only the 5th mayor since the city of Mississauga was formed. That is because more than half of that time, in that 50 years, Mississauga was under the mayorship of Hazel McCallion.
I remember that name well.
Yes.
Okay. My turn. You want to hear some nerdy facts?
Yes, I do.
Here we go. Bonnie Crombie was the mayor of Mississauga, now Ontario Liberal leader. Bonnie Crombie was a Liberal MP. Carolyn Parrish was a Liberal MP. Yep. Bonnie Crombie, before she was the mayor, represented Ward 5. Carolyn Parrish, before she was the mayor, represented
Ward 5.
There you go. Bonnie Crombie, when she was younger, went to St. Michael's College at the University of Toronto. Oh. Carolyn Parrish, when she was younger, went to
St. Michael's College.
You're working with me. Well done. Well done. One more thing. Bonnie Crombie's background, her ethnic background, is actually Polish. Carolyn Parrish's background?
Also Polish.
Her real name, I shouldn't say real name, the name she was born with was Karolina Januszewska.
Yes.
So look at this. And of course, they're both mayors of Mississauga now. These two have a heck of a lot in common.
Yes.
I should also say here that for quite a bit of time, they did not get along very well at all. They were actually political rivals and not particularly friendly, despite all those similarities that we just put on the record there. But in recent years, I think it's fair to say, they have both buried the hatchet. They have worked reasonably well together. Crombie was the mayor while Parrish was on council. They got some stuff done together. I would suggest that this was meaningful as well. When Parrish won the other night, Crombie showed up at her campaign headquarters to partake in the celebration, even though she's not in municipal politics anymore. And it was, I guess, sort of a moment where you sort of figuratively passed the torch from the former mayor to the new mayor. So the optics on all that were pretty good.
I have to wonder whether, as you say, they've worked productively in recent years. If Bonnie Crombie gets her wish and is the next Premier of Ontario, it will be very interesting to see how that relationship develops, because as much as you want the interests of the province and the interests of municipalities are in some ways always going to diverge.
Totally.
And it would be interesting to see the choices that a Premier Crombie would have to make and whether a Mayor Parish would be able to get along as constructively.
Stay tuned. And with that, we're off to issue 3. Ontario Premier Doug Ford and Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker held a signing ceremony in Toronto earlier this week. They signed a memorandum of understanding on a range of issues such as what?
This MOU focuses on manufacturing, energy, agriculture, and the automotive industry. So these are things that Ontario and the state of Illinois have a lot in common. On paper, it makes sense. Ontario and Illinois, they've got a close business relationship. Chicago and Toronto, sometimes rival cities of the Great Lakes, if you want to put it that way. And $29 billion in trade between our two jurisdictions last year.
That's a lot of money. Shall we take a little sneak peek at some of this stuff?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sheldon, if you would, roll the clip.
We're Illinois' #1 export destination, along with 17 other states, and we just share the same values.
Interesting that he says that they share the same values because, of course, Doug Ford is a conservative, J.B. Pritzker is a Democrat, obviously close friend of former President Barack Obama's. Okay, let's just dive into this, shall we? They've got the flags. They're wearing their $2,000 suits. They've got the table. They're going to sign the documents. They're going to hold the documents up to the cameras. It really is like it's show business, right? It really is show business. And my question for you is, do these things actually accomplish anything, or are these just fancy photo ops?
So they're definitely photo ops, but I don't know that they are just photo ops, right? Ford has signed similar MOUs with other states. He signed one with Indiana earlier this year and with Michigan last year. MOUs, they can mean more business missions, sharing market information, governments sharing best practices among their staff. But more broadly, I think it's easy to underrate how important it is for Ontario and for Canada that we have good relations between states and provinces. There is a lot of ways that governors can make trouble for Ontario if they want to. Just one example, Michigan Governor Gretchen Whitmer has spent years trying to stop the Line 5 pipeline that crosses the border. I believe it's Sault Ste. Marie. This is something that Ontario and Canada have formally opposed. There's a very big argument about the environmental risks versus the energy security that it provides to Ontario. I'm not going to get into that except to say that these are the kinds of things that governors can do if, for whatever political reasons they have. You could also look at the NAFTA fight during the Trump years, the prior Trump years. One of the big parts of Canadian advocacy in U.S. politics of trying to ensure that Canada's interests in that free trade dispute were preserved. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff that happened at the federal levels between President Trump and Prime Minister Trudeau, but there was also a huge amount of advocacy at the subnational level, right? Premiers and ministers going out and talking to governors and Congress people and really making the case that hurting Canada was only going to hurt local U.S. businesses in districts and states all across the U.S. So while these confabs, they are not like the most important thing in the world, they are also not unimportant either.
There was should I call it a funny moment? Okay, when Kathleen Wynne was the premier and Mike Pence was the governor of Indiana.
Yes.
Was the governor of Indiana. They did another one of these things. And I'm not sure I've seen two more uncomfortable politicians in each other's presence. Kathleen Wynne, the openly gay female premier of the province of Ontario, a Liberal, and Mike Pence, the evangelical Christian Republican governor of Indiana. Yeah, not a lot of karma there.
No, but you gotta have these meetings, and
absolutely,
it's part of the job just as much as it is introducing bills and passing them in the legislature.
Right on. And with that, we're on to your column, my column. Time now for our regular feature that we like to call Your Column, My Column, in which JMM and I reminisce about the pieces we wrote for our website, tvo.org, over the past week. And JMM, Tee up for us what you wrote this week.
I wrote about the new mayor of Mississauga and how, while both she and Doug Ford agree on the need to get Ontario's third largest city building more homes, there is a big blank space we are waiting for the province to fill in before we know what that looks like. You remember that brief moment where it looked like the province was going to de-amalgamate Peel region, which includes Mississauga, Brampton, and Caledon?
It was a deathbed promise that Doug Ford gave to Hazel McCallion until he didn't.
Yes, exactly.
And then he took it back.
Yes. So the panel that the government struck to look into how better to deliver services like water and sewer is still there, and it's expected to report, I believe, later this month. And in theory, the province is supposed to do something with that advice when they receive it. Why this matters. Development charges for water and sewer services in Peel region are large, and they add substantially to the cost of building new homes. So in principle, if the government makes big changes to how Mississauga finances its water infrastructure, that could mean big changes to how many homes get built. The catch is that, as I say, the panel hasn't yet reported back, and the prospect of an early election makes me think that the government is not actually going to do anything with that advice until after next spring, after the votes are counted. But then I am cynical about these things.
No, you're not a cynic. No. You're pure as the driven snow. I know.
Absolutely.
You believe everybody's motives on these things. I know.
How about yourself, Steve?
I wrote a piece this past week that focused on the events of June 12th, 1984, 40 years ago this week. One of the biggest 180-degree reversals in Ontario political history. Let me set the scene here. Bill Davis is the Premier of Ontario. I've done my job now, mentioned Bill Davis this week. And he announced that on the 12th of June, 1984, he got up in the legislature and shocked everybody by saying, we are going to extend public funding to the end of high school for the Catholic school system. At that point, Catholic schools were only funded to the end of grade 10. And what made this so noteworthy for him to do this was that in 1971, when he became the new leader of the PC party and Premier of Ontario, he called a press conference to say, I've heard what the bishops want. I know they want full funding for the separate school system. The answer is no. Oh, and we're going to have an election. And they called an election, and Mr. Davis won a majority even bigger than the one he inherited from John Robarts. He won that in part because Ontario was a very different place back then. White, Protestant, not much ethnicity, and the Tory base kind of liked him sticking it to the Catholics by saying no to Ontario's Roman Catholics.
At a time when sectarian politics were a bit more intense.
Right on, right on. Okay, having said that, you know, I've talked to lots of people over the years, including Mr. Davis, about this. It always bothered him that he won that election kind of playing that political / religion / education card. He felt a bit guilty about it. So he kept the lines of communication open with the bishops over the years, and they got to a point where he said, when I judge that the time is right, I will do this for you. 12th of June, 1984, he deemed that the time was right, and so he got up and made the announcement. Okay, it was overwhelmingly applauded in the legislature, right? The Liberals and New Democrats were both on side, and the government, there were a lot of people on the Tory backbenches who were not happy about it, but they'd been told before the announcement, when Mr. Davis announces this, you get up on your feet and you applaud. And they dutifully did. But it masked a lot of unhappiness with this policy. Okay, fast forward, Mr. Davis retires Thanksgiving 1984. Frank Miller takes over the Tory party. We're into an election campaign in the spring of 1985, and I'm at a news conference held by the Anglican Archbishop of Toronto, a guy by the name of Louis Garnsworthy. And I ask him the most innocent question. What do you think about the government's plans to extend full funding to the Catholic school system to the end of high school? And Louis Garnsworthy explodes. He says, this is how Hitler changed education policy in Germany, by decree. I won't take that back. Everybody was absolutely gobsmacked when he said it. It became a huge issue. It begat all sorts of unhappiness with the PC party. Frank Miller eventually went on to lose that 1985 election. David Peterson became the Premier for the Liberals, backed by New Democratic Party leader then Bob Rae. They brought the 42-year-long Tory dynasty to an end, and it all started 40 years ago this week. There you go.
So we joke occasionally about the difference in our ages, but this is kind of a stark case. I was in kindergarten in 1985, which
my gosh.
I mentioned not to make you feel old, but just to say
Right.
that I have only ever lived with the system we have today. And I think that's true for a lot of voters. And there are, nevertheless, there are lots of people in Ontario who think that the current system is unfair, not least other religious groups who don't get publicly funded denominational schools. But to call back to a previous topic, I think it's actually kind of like beer and wine in a sense. Like, for most Ontario voters, this is just the way it has always been, and they don't see a very compelling argument for change.
Well, I was actually emailing with former Premier David Peterson about this past week, and he said, look, if you're going to sit down and from scratch design a brand new school system for the province of Ontario, you obviously would not create what we have right now. You know, where we have an English system and a French system and a Catholic system and a secular system, and you wouldn't do that. But he said the system we have today has happened as a result of historic compromises made by varying groups within the province of Ontario for 157 years. And that's why we have what we have. And despite the fact that on paper or in theory, it's problematic that, as you've suggested, one religious group has two school systems to choose from when no other religion enjoys that option. There is an argument to be made that these historic compromises kind of sort of work, and we are where we are.
There's a virtue in politics to muddling through, so long as it doesn't, actively harm people. And that's, I think, part of the argument is whether people are actually being harmed by the current system. And as I said, that's a very big discussion. But yeah, Ontario has a very long history of muddling through lots of things.
Indeed. Yes, indeed. Now, we usually go to the mailbag at this point, but I want to take just a little pause here because I want to give a shout out to Judith Dickey. Judith Dickey was someone who walked up to me at the National Arts Centre this past Saturday night in Ottawa, went there for the Governor General Arts Awards, while we were doing a shoot there as well. And she walked up to me, JMM, and I kid you not, she said, I really enjoy watching your podcast, and I don't even like politics. I love that. Because we don't just want the onpoli nerds watching us, which we certainly do, but we want the folks who don't like politics either to be watching us as well. And Judith Dickey is one of them. So thanks for watching, Judith.
Thank you.
I don't care if you don't like politics. Keep watching. We love it.
There's an old quote about war that I'm going to paraphrase and say, you might not be interested in politics, but politics is interested in you.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
If we can reach more than just the nerds and the wonks, and again, nerds and wonks, you're my people, I love you. But if we can reach more than just the nerds and the wonks and help people understand some of the forces that are, shaping their daily lives, right? I feel like we've done our job.
Amen. Okay, let's go to the mailbag here. Now, before we get to the questions, we wanted to talk about something kind of exciting that we've got coming up. You want to tell the folks what's going on?
Absolutely. We are rapidly coming up to our last episode of the season on June 28th. That happened faster than I felt it would. The final episode will be a mailbag episode where we will answer all of your burning Ontario politics questions. So please send them in, and I think we've got some prizes.
We do, actually. Now, I want to tell you about this because I just interviewed this guy for the agenda. And the interview that I did with Richard Petty, who is the author of this book, will be on the agenda on the 24th of June. This book is called Great Small Towns of Ontario. And the irony of this book is that it was written by Richard Petty, who used to be the chief executive officer of Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment. So his job used to be getting the population of a small town into what was then the Air Canada Centre, now the Scotiabank Arena, on a regular basis for Leaf and Raptor games. He's basically left Toronto. He's moved to southwestern Ontario to a small town outside Windsor, I think about 25,000 population, called Amherstburg. And he's kind of dedicated himself to improving the town of Amherstburg. He's bought up a number of properties, renovated them, trying to beautify the town. And he goes through this, and there are, I don't know if you can see any of this, but I mean, the pictures and it's gorgeous. He's got 10 small towns in here. Here's the map of it right here. And I should say, okay, Almont, Perth, Picton, Cobourg, Port Hope, Huntsville, Elora, Goderich, Amherstburg, and Niagara-on-the-Lake, which is probably the most beautiful small town in Ontario. Probably is.
Careful.
I know. Them's fighting words for a lot of folks, but it probably is. And we are going to have a draw. Richard has kindly given us 3 copies of his book to give away. We'll do a live draw the last week of the show. and send us your questions. 3 people will get to take this away. And the reality is, if you got a month in the summer to travel the province of Ontario, you could do a lot worse than go visit these 10 small towns and go through the book, kind of like a Michelin guide, and Richard will tell you why they're the best small towns in Ontario to visit.
To each of those towns.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
All right. With that, if you've got a burning question or insightful comment, send it along to onpolitics@tvo.org. This week, we've got this question from Ian Cunningham from Toronto, who writes, I'm confused. In his new role as government House Leader, is Steve Clark a member of Cabinet? Is he also a minister without portfolio? Many thanks and keep up the great work. Cheers, Ian Cunningham.
Ian, I think we may have contributed to some confusion about this on last week's podcast, so let's clear that up right now. Steve Clark is not in Cabinet. He does, however, have a leadership position with this government. The title is called Government House Leader, which basically means he has the job that is responsible for setting the government's agenda, figuring out when bills get introduced into the House, when the bills get voted on, when they get sent to committee for study, when they get dropped because they're not going to have enough time to get them through or whatever. It's a better job, obviously, than being just a backbencher. There is a pay increase that comes with it, but there is no seat at the Cabinet table. So we clarify that right now.
While we're on this topic, I do want to note that Clark is not inheriting the position of Minister of Legislative Affairs. That was a title that Paul Calandra held and was responsible for the upcoming renovations of the legislature. Those responsibilities have been handed to the Ministry of Infrastructure, currently headed by Kinga Surma.
Do we know where they're going to have question period and all that stuff once the legislature is under renovation?
Hasn't been announced yet. As I understand it, they are still looking. They are speaking to many different stakeholders about where, but they're looking for some very large space where they can assemble and do an off-site legislature, if I can put it that way. But they also need like offices and stuff. And there's also some dispute about, will reporters have the same access to MPPs that we currently do in the legislature? All of that, as I understand it, still very much up in the air.
I love your idea. You had the best idea on this. Take it on the road.
Yeah,
take it on the road. Have question period, bill introductions. Take all the MPPs, send them on the road, different cities all over the province. Take Queen's Park to the people. I love that idea.
Yeah, no, we've bring them to Sudbury, bring them to Thunder Bay. Just have a traveling legislature. Yeah, this is going to go on for like 10 years of renovations, so it's possible that we need to think of maybe a more static base as well. But yeah, I'm still banging the table for put it on the road.
Bang away. Let's do one more quick note here. Okay, Sheldon, you want to bring this one up? Here's a question from David Harrison who says, so what's really going on with the Eglinton Crosstown? There must be a story here. I hear rumblings, David says, that Metrolinx and the TTC are at odds over serious issues related to its workability. SP and JMM, what's the buzz? Tell me, us, what's happening? And then David signs off, still a listener. David, we're glad that you're listening, but you may want to try the video podcast just once in a while. Lots of people do. Anyway, what's going on with this crosstown now?
So, David, I think you and everyone who is even moderately interested in transit projects would like to know the answer to your question. In the spring of 2023, Metrolinx CEO Phil Verster said that there were still hundreds of technical issues that needed to be fixed, including issues with the track. I've heard that the issue is basically track alignment, which is something that it freaks out Metrolinx because...
You know what they did, right? Like they started building from the east end, and they started building the west end, and they were going to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
And when they got to the middle, they were off.
Yeah.
They were off.
And so there are issues, the nightmare that Ontario does not want to see recur is what happened in Ottawa, where we had a derailment and they don't want to see that again, so they're being super fastidious about this. Our colleagues over at Global News submitted 2 Freedom of Information requests to find out more detail about the list of issues, and those requests were denied. Metrolinx said that releasing the information would impact third-party commercial companies, and that is one of the reasons in the law that you're allowed to deny these kinds of requests. Phil Verster had also promised updates every 2 months. Those updates have not happened.
God.
Make of that what you will. The Premier has gone so far as to say that he's frustrated with the amount of time that the project has taken. No sign yet of when an actual paying human passenger will get on a actual train on the Crosstown.
Well, but there are lots of signs near us. I mean, we have a particular interest in this because the Eglinton Crosstown is 100 meters north of this studio. Yeah. It goes east. I mean, someday, God willing, it'll go east-west along Eglinton. And this intersection of Yonge and Eglinton has been a construction site for years. Cranes, bulldozers, stoppage of traffic. I mean, it's a literal construction site. It looks great now, like they've taken all that stuff away. You've got a really nice new designed intersection there. You've got bike lanes in there. You've got a couple of gleaming new LRT stations that are there. You know, they look very nice, but still no trains. Still no trains.
Someday. It's like next year in Jerusalem, but whatever the equivalent is for transit service, you know. Again, if you'd like to ask about any content on this show, please email us at onpolitics@tvo.org.
And that is the onpoli podcast for this June 14th, 2024. Happy Father's Day this weekend to you, to me, and all the other dads who are watching or listening. Special thanks to our wonderful crew that make this set look so good. Tony, are you back there on 3? Did you keep him in focus the whole show? Tony Burke getting a shout out this week for doing a good job. Until next Friday, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Why is sustainability important in your view when considering hosting these kinds of festivals and events?
Well, as we know, there's a huge issue with the environment, and we want to be as sustainable as possible with everything that we do. And these events can create a tremendous amount of waste, as you mentioned in your introduction. So trying to keep these festivals as sustainable as possible is very, very important. And also it increases the participation of people who want to come, because especially young audiences really want to come to festivals that they know are going to be as green as possible.
Well, let me follow up with Pam on that. Is that in fact the case? Do you know for a fact that people care how environmentally sensible these festivals are?
We do. Mariposa does an audience survey post-festival every year, and we always ask questions on sustainability and environmental responsibility. So I totally agree with what Gabby has been saying. And I think patrons want good value for their entertainment dollar, but they also they've changed their expectations, and they want events that are environmentally responsible.
We have some examples of that very thing. Kate, we're going to show some pictures here. Have a look at the wall in the studio over there at the monitor. And Sheldon, if you would, let's bring up some of these pictures. And you can, okay, take us through this, what we're looking at, and give a bit of a description for people who are listening on podcast right now.
Absolutely. So yeah, what we can see there is a reusable stainless steel Hillside mug. So one of the green initiatives that we've implemented at Hillside Festival is that we don't serve any of our alcoholic beverages in cans. Or in a throwaway red plastic cup. You have to purchase or bring your own stainless steel mug. And through the ingenuity of some of our brewery partners, all the alcohol is served, poured from a tap. And that way we eliminate even the recyclable aluminum waste. We eliminate that at our festival.
Okay, what's this next thing here?
So again, at Hillside, we through the ingenuity of decades of volunteers, we actually on site we have a 4-stream trash management system. So what you're seeing there is what we would call a trash turnaround. They're found throughout the entire festival. So we're separating out garbage for landfill. Any recycling we do have, we actually compost on site.
And people do this?
And people do this. But the best part is the 4th one, which is our reusable dishes.
Oh, well, okay. I think we got that shot here too. Volunteer dishwashing is this with solar-powered water heating?
Absolutely. Again, we're very proud at Hillside Festival to offer, we have absolutely no single-use dishes of any kind. We only use reusable cups, plates, and cutlery. And these are washed, these are used in our food court throughout the island, and they are washed on site by up to about 200 volunteers for about 8,000 people over the weekend. It's pretty amazing to see in action.
And people don't mind doing this.
Absolutely. It's one of our most popular volunteer crews. People apply months in advance to be on our dishwashing crew. We have a mind to making it a place to be and making it fun. From our dishwashing area, you actually have an amazing view of our main stage performances. So we really, we incentivize, wanting to participate in that.
Okay. Pam, I want to put you on the hot seat now here, and we've got some shots from Mariposa. So let's bring these pictures up, Sheldon, if we can. This is, I gather, a hydration station for reusable water bottles. Take us through that. What are we seeing?
Well, I echo Kate's remarks about the ingenuity of volunteers. A number of years ago, when I first started coordinating the festival, when I came back post-festival, there was a mountain of single-use water bottles. So we had a conservation club who partnered with us, and they went to one of the local water stores, and they developed this, what was originally a counter with commercial spigots to fill water bottles. And from that, we've not looked back. We are single water bottle use free, and we provide free water to our patrons and communicate every year, please bring a reusable cup because we will not be having single-use water bottles.
Do we still overwhelmingly live in a province that is focused on the car and car culture?
Well, yes, we are, because we haven't invested within urban areas in urban transit, and we've failed to provide intercity public transport in a very, very effective way. We've been talking about in the Toronto-Montreal corridor, Ottawa corridor, high-speed rail for over 50 years. Mm-hmm. There was a study in 1969 looking at it, and we've been talking about it ever since, and we have failed to deliver alternatives. And the bus industry has been in decline for a number of years in the province as well. So people just don't have alternatives in most cases. You have to drive 4, 5, 6 hours. Well, that's what you do because there isn't an alternative.
Josipa, how would you characterize the ease with which people can get around this province of Ontario?
Yeah, well, very difficult, but I would say there's some beacon lights of hope, perhaps, within that. To your point, Eric, busing has dropped off. We're talking about coach busing, but services like Flix have stepped in to fill the gap with the Greyhound exit. Having said that, public transit is on the rise. We're hitting pre-pandemic and have already busted through pre-pandemic levels in cities like Brampton and other cities around the country.
The ridership is coming back. The
ridership's coming back. So clearly transit is playing a role. It is growing, and we expect transit to double in size in the next decade or so because of electrification. But having said that, when we are talking about commuting and mobility, just to set in context, 80% of Canadians still drive to their regular commute. Only 20% of us take transit or walk. It's the reverse in Tokyo. And so why can't Toronto be like Tokyo? Well, there's some good political reasons probably for that we can get into, but the reality is it's still an 80-20 split, which means it's too hard to get around.
Eric Boutillier, how does it work in North Bay? If you've got to go somewhere, are public transit options at all available there, or how significant are they?
If you're traveling within the city, public transit is while limited is available. The moment you try to step out of city limits is when it becomes challenging because there really isn't any sort of connected network. To connect you to smaller communities that surround North Bay. And certainly intercity transit is sparse, very limited here in Northern Ontario.
How much bus or train service is left in Northern Ontario, in your view?
It's almost non-existent. You have a train that goes from Sudbury to White River 3 times a week. You have the transcontinental train that goes from Toronto to Vancouver through places like Sudbury, Horn-Payne, Sioux Lookout twice a week. You have train service between Cochrane and Moosonee a few times a week. Bus service maybe once a day, depending on where you live. So it's a real fragmented system. There's very little ways to connect in between those different modes, and it's a challenge, quite frankly.
Mayor Landry, how safe are the transportation options in Northern Ontario?
So when we talk about the transit system in the city is limited to the city of Thunder Bay. And again, just like Eric was saying, that it's within the city limits. And you can, those folks that take the city transit here in Thunder Bay are usually the folks that don't own a vehicle or don't have a vehicle or they're new to the area. And it's time consuming to get across the city with the transit system here. If you're intercommunity commuting between our communities, then it's extremely limited. With the loss of Greyhound, that was a huge loss for all of our communities. And we have limited options. The Northlander comes through now occasionally. And some places when it comes through, it's pick up at 3 a.m, all hours of the night. And if you want to go to any of the communities that are off the highway, there's some offers of private transit like Casper buses, and some municipalities have received funding for some of the ability to bring seniors to the city of Thunder Bay for doctor's appointments and stuff. But it's traveling in between our communities are very long, very boring. It's a lot of trees.
Oh, it looks beautiful, though. Okay, hang on, Your Worship. What do you mean boring? It looks beautiful up there.
Dangerous.
Okay, well, let me follow up on that.
Hypnotizing.
Okay, let me follow up on that. You said it's dangerous. If you're driving in the city of Thunder Bay, and of course, roads are an issue, weather can be an issue. What's it like?
Well, the city of Thunder Bay, I mean, they do a good job in the snow clearing, but it takes time, right? If you get 12 inches of snow, which is not uncommon in an evening, it takes time to get all of our roads cleared. And I mean, I don't want to speak for specifically the city of Thunder Bay, but for those that are traveling in from the outside communities to come into Thunder Bay to work, the highways, the clearing, the time frame of getting those highways cleared can vary from one storm to the next. And so even buses are being canceled for school in the mornings are a regular thing.
Mary, if you look at the title of the book, Sheldon, can we show the big screen here? Yeah. There's an asterisk after World's Fastest Man. Why is that?
That's because there's a story behind the story.
So it's a bit like the asterisk they put after Roger Maris's 61 home runs when he broke Babe Ruth's record.
All those things. I mean, you want to read a little bit more about what's this all about?
The asterisk is part of the story. Okay. I suspect you remember what happened on that day.
Not really.
Well, I want to take a look at it again anyway, because it was a pretty amazing moment. Sheldon, roll it if you would.
And it's a fair start. And it is Raymond Turr with a start. It is Ben Johnson with a start. Can Carl catch him? No! It's Ben Johnson! Ben Johnson does it again! Unbelievable!
I still get goosebumps looking at that. Do you?
I didn't know it was that fast.
Ben, when the number came up, 9.79, could you believe it?
Yes, I believe because I was turning this kind of time in practice when I was training with Charlie back in the days.
Charlie Francis, your coach.
Yeah.
Was that then the happiest moment of your life?
Yeah, I believe that from all the years of training and sacrifice, the time and the dedication, and to give something back to my mother, I think that was the more saddest moment in my life, yeah.
I have a few other bizarre questions here, starting with, why did you wear, I mean, you're wearing a big chain around your neck, which I would assume would distract or slow you down. Was it not a problem?
Well, it was quite heavy when I first bought it in Italy, and when I was training sometimes with it, it was knocking on my bones right here, and it hurts a little bit, but after a couple of weeks start training with it, it feels okay.
You got used to it, okay.
Yeah.
Carl Lewis came over to you, the American sprinter who was your big challenger. He came over to you to shake your hand before the race started. And according to the book, you said to him, "Get away from me, this is my time, not yours." Why'd you say that?
Because I think that was the right thing to do, because I know there's a lot of jealousy of him and other athletes and other people surrounding that moment was jealous of my accomplishment. If I'm going to win Olympic Games again in 1988, what I did in Rome in 1987, so it was just a shocking moment. So, I was not there for a best friend to shake hands. I'm just here to win the gold medal.
You were there to do some business. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Sheldon, bring the picture up. This is on the podium afterwards, getting the medals. You guys did have a handshake there. Did you exchange any nice words there?
No, but just looking on his face, and he was looked very upset. Yeah.
Yeah. Sheldon, if you would, let's bring up the next picture as well, because, and again, Ben, this is another question I've always wanted to ask you. You probably cost yourself 1/10 of a second by putting your arm up in the air as if to say, "I'm number one." Why did you do that?
I think that I will have another chance to run from 0 to 100 meters and lower the record, but I didn't have that chance. But I think that when I look on the scoreboard at my view, I'm almost like 11 o'clock. The clock's at 9 seconds flat. And I shut it down and said, no one can be this close at 9 seconds. It's impossible. Someone to be there. So I was confidently just turn around and wave my hands in the air.
Okay. Mary, take us back now. You write that Ben almost didn't participate in this race in Seoul because he was, quote, injured, tired, and unhappy. What was going on?
Well, Ben had a lot going on in his life at that point, and he had been world champion for just a couple of months. He won that, he referenced that in '87 in Rome. He won the world championship and world record time. And there were new demands on his time, his energy with media appearances and, sponsors and all this. So he left to go to St. Kitts. He and Charlie Francis, his coach, had a little bit of a misunderstanding. And Ben just seemed to want to go away and recharge and rethink everything, and went to St. Kitts and tried to relax on a beach, but he also had a hamstring injury that he was worried about.
So there was a lot of kind of negative stuff going on at this moment, just in advance of the greatest moment of his life.
That's right. And part of that was the world's sports media and fans were watching this. They say, well, Ben's gone AWOL. What's going on? And all his competitors are training and competing, and they think Ben's just lying on a beach drinking beer and playing dominoes. Like, he's not going to be there in Seoul. But during this time, and he could probably address this a little better, but he decided that, my focus is now back on Seoul, and I'm going to get there. But it took about 6 weeks, I believe.
How did you get focused again?
Well, I believe that Charlie and I go way, way, way back since I was a young kid, and going through this journey to become the fastest man in the world or to win Olympic Games. So as I said, we come a long way and come this far and to quit. And I just come to the track one day and said, Charlie, okay, let's get the job done.
There is a lot more corporate influence in Pride nowadays.
Certainly,
Good thing or
yes.
bad thing?
I think it's mixed. I think, to Sherry's point, yes, Pride corporations need money. We need to be able to have parades and to have larger spaces for everyone to come about. Are those corporations making space or funding all of our communities, everyone who's part of the communities that are celebrating at Pride? And also, to Sherry's point, I think even at home, are clients of, say, the big banks or the corporations that are funding or participating in Pride, are they treating their queer and trans clients the way they should be? I remember way back when, maybe a decade ago, conversations about trans people being dead named by their banks, while the banks were...
Sorry, help me with that. Dead named by the banks?
Dead named, so
what?
Using their name that they had at birth that they no longer use on their bank accounts, for instance, and not being able to access their banking because of it. And if you're gonna fly a flag at the parade, if you're going to, stick a bunch of rainbow flags all over your banks everywhere and say, we're the sponsors of Pride in Toronto this year, maybe think about how you're treating the people who are, your clients. And
you got to walk the walk, not just talk the talk.
Precisely, Steve.
Okay,
yeah.
all right. How about you, Lance? So the increasing involvement of corporations in Pride celebrations, what's your view?
Well, clearly that's not what the purpose of Pride was originally, is not to involve corporations. And I think that, I don't even know if really we should always be focusing on that. I mean, I think we're right now in a moment where there's a lot of divided opinions about sort of the purpose of Pride. I went to the Pride Pub at University of Toronto, and the pub started at 4 o'clock, and the first hour or two, there's a lot of kids' games. There's like a tic-tac-toe thing out. I mean, like the kids running around with rainbow flags. And I'm like, wow, this is like a Pride celebration. And, a part of that is to celebrate, now the rights and the recognition of queer families, and that's good. But on the other hand, the more subversive sort of roots of Pride get lost in that sort of celebration. So you have sort of the TD Bank and sort of the, the bodybuilder guys, like half naked in the little steam shower, and everybody's like oogling them. And then you have sort of Queers Against Israeli Apartheid or Black Lives Matter trying to really intervene in Pride and sort of break up this whole big sort of uncritical celebration. So I feel like, we're just in a very sort of divided / like time when there are lots of different ideas of pride. And I think it even goes beyond. It includes sort of whether or not, the question of whether or not sort of corporations should be included in pride, but it's actually beyond that too.
Well, Tatiana, do you prefer it when it's more sort of overtly political, or do you prefer it when it's sort of more fun for the whole family, let the banks endorse it, that kind of thing?
I kind of prefer both. I think that the involvement of corporations speak to kind of progress. We have queer and trans people in leadership, in executive roles. We have the banks that are kind of showing support to their employees and their staff who are LGBTQ. So I think that it's important for us to celebrate, progress, like how far we've come. The fact that you no longer have to be hidden or ashamed of being queer. And this is kind of how some multinational corporations are showing their support, showing allyship, directly investing in community too. So the Black Queer Youth Collective, we serve Black Queer and Trans youth, and we have a few corporate sponsors. And not to say that our work is influenced by them, because we'll never allow a funder to dictate how we work, but it's nice to have that support. And equally, I think for employees, if you're working at a company that has a history, it kind of increases visibility. A lot of my work, especially in terms of promoting gender inclusion and even responding to anti-Black racism, has been about, increasing visibility of the diverse spectrums of community. How far have we come from, the original origins of Pride? I think that there's still a lot of fights that's needed. I think, as mentioned, there's still a lot of challenges that trans and non-binary people are experiencing. And trans as a spectrum, trans as an umbrella term, has expanded so much that even within the trans community, we're seeing these gender diversity needs be unmet.
Next week on the agenda.
For the people around him, I don't know if it matters, because I think they know Poilievre for who he is today, and they like that guy. They're invested in that. They're invested in his success. And I think that Poilievre often talks about his upbringing, because even though it is unique for reasons we discussed, it's something that does situate him far closer to the middle class than, say, Justin Trudeau's upbringing does.
That's next week on the agenda.